From the studios in San Diego, California, this is Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network, coming to you live here on this Thursday. It is the first day of June 2017 as we get set to go. Getting close to halfway through this year as the big day has finally arrived if you're a basketball fan, as the NBA Finals get underway this evening. Game two of the Stanley Cup Finals last night, and a bad loss for the Nashville Predators as they seem to be gagging it up. The Mets fall to the Milwaukee Brewers today. They split that four-game series 2-2, and the Yankees will start a series in Toronto tonight after losing 2 out of 3 to the Baltimore Orioles over the middle during the middle of the week. But we'll begin today with the NBA Finals, which is where we'll spend a majority of our time today. This NBA Finals, or as I've referred to it as Rocky 3, this NBA Finals will be, if there is a next year for Cleveland and Golden State, which from what I've seen, I see no reason why there wouldn't be a next year for these two teams to meet a fourth consecutive year. This is going to be the last one of real major primetime importance, as I've called it, Rocky 3. There is a lot on the line for Golden State in this series, not so much for Cleveland. There is one player, as I wrote down in the description, there is one player in these NBA Finals that has a majority of the pressure rested on his shoulders, and that is Kevin Durant, who in this case can't win. Kevin Durant is in a lose-lose situation by definition. If he wins, the comments will be, oh, well, of course he won. He went to the best team in the league. If he loses, it's going to turn into, well, you went to the best team in the league and still you couldn't win. The only way Kevin Durant escapes this lose-lose situation is if he wins Finals MVP. Because he will have proven that he was the missing piece in Golden State. And it's ridiculous to say missing piece after this team has already won a championship and won 73 games last year without him. But that first title is shrouded in what ifs. What if Cleveland was healthy? Would they have beaten Golden State? Would Cleveland have beaten Golden State? I'm sort of lost track there. And then last year is, what if Draymond Green doesn't get suspended for Game 5? Does the result remain the same? There's no questions this year. At least going into this series, there are no questions. Cleveland's healthy. As far as we know, no one's in position, no one's close to getting suspended on Golden State. Kevin Durant has to win Finals MVP if he does not want the negative criticism whether he wins or loses. Because if he wins Finals MVP, you brought Kevin Durant in. Kevin Durant wanted to go to a winner, and he was the reason why they won. That's the only way Durant gets out of the lose-lose scenario. And he can't just win it. He has to win it. Finals MVP meaning. It cannot be, oh, well, it's a toss-up between him and Draymond. It's a toss-up between him and Steph Curry. No, he has to be unanimous playoff Finals MVP, period. Otherwise, that question of, was he really, you went to the best team. It's not that big. Or, wow, you lost. Really? You went to the best team in the league and you lost. That's going to be the conversation if Golden State wins or loses. Is, wow, Kevin Durant, really? Both ways. You look at this now from a Cavaliers standpoint, more specifically a LeBron James standpoint. What happens after this finals, if it's a win for LeBron, it moves him closer to being on the same step as Michael Jordan, which is a conversation that I've heard for the last month now, and I'm sick and tired of hearing it. But we're going to hear it pretty much all throughout the offseason because the Michael people and the LeBron people are very vocal and they are not going to change their minds. If LeBron loses, then all you hear is he's not as good as Jordan. And he never will be as good as Jordan. That's what you're going to hear. Now, it is a matter of, so you can essentially put this series down to it is a matter of choices versus legacy. Choices made by Kevin Durant versus LeBron's legacy. LeBron's legacy does not get tarnished with a finals loss at all. It's just where does LeBron rank compared to Michael Jordan? This finals, a loss would devastate Kevin Durant as far as legacy. This, a loss in the finals for LeBron does nothing to damage his legacy at all. He will be exactly where he is now. He can only get elevated but with a finals win. Durant can be destroyed with a loss. There are a lot of variables in this series. For one, Cleveland is a very physical team. Golden State is not. The refs will try to even out this series. They will try to make these games as close as possible. If one team gets too far out in front, if it's Golden State that gets too far out in front, they will swallow whistles to get Cleveland back into the game. If Cleveland gets too far out in front, you're going to see a lot of fouls getting called to get Golden State back in it. Because with how bad, and it's not rigging a final. Okay? You see sports, every single sport does it. They change rules to even out competition. They change rules to create excitement. That's what every sport does. So you are going to see the NBA do that. One team gets too far out in front, they are going to try. They are going to call to the trailing team's strengths to get them back into the game, and then they'll level it back out again. It's not fixing a final. It's about creating an even game. And my assumption will be in the last 2-3 minutes, all bets are off. Because with how much is riding on this series, can Cleveland beat the best team, what many people are calling the best team in NBA history? Can Golden State and Kevin Durant get over that hump? At least Durant. Can Durant get over that hump and win an NBA final? The refs are not going to want to get into the middle of this, especially with how awful these playoffs have been this year. The last thing that the NBA wants is a blowout. The last thing that the NBA wants is a one-sided series. They're not going to fix games, but they are going to try to make them close. And again, every sport does it. This is going. So Cleveland has a physical advantage. With LeBron's encouragement, Cleveland has gotten closer to Golden State as far as a shooting team. So it's going to be physical, in your face basketball versus finesse 3-point long range shooting, which is what it has been over these last couple of years. But because now it's the third meeting, there were questions in the first meeting, there were questions in the second meeting. Everyone's good to go this year. It's the rubber match. So everything's amped up to an nth degree. And to be perfectly honest, this series is a toss up. How can you say the series is a toss up? Golden State's gone 12 and 0 into the finals. Because there's no team in the NBA that can beat Golden State when Golden State is at their highest, except for Cleveland. Cleveland, they lost a couple games purely because they were not interested. They needed something to get their interest back. This final, again, is going to be Rocky 3. It's going to be the last one of interest before it starts to tail off. I think I said it earlier this week or last week. I believe I said Cleveland in 6. I'm still going with that, Cleveland in 6. To the people that are saying Golden State in 5, is you're out of your minds. You are going solely based off of Golden State and the way they played at 100% against the West. The teams they played in the West were not on their level by any means, and San Antonio lost Kawhi Leonard in the first game. Do I think Golden State is a great team? Yes, of course I do. Are they 12 and 0? Yeah, probably. Yeah, they're probably 12 and 0 great. Are they sweeping LeBron James and the Cavaliers or taking the series in 5? No, they're not. LeBron will be on high alert. LeBron will be at 100% effort. Kevin Love has had a very good playoff series. Kyrie Irving can step it up a little bit, but he's had a good series. Cleveland is physical. Golden State is not. That will favor Cleveland late in games when the refs start swallowing whistles. I genuinely think it is going to be Cleveland in 6. I've heard so many people talk about it. I've heard the guys on PTI, I've heard the guys on Around the Horn. I listened to the Dan Levitard show, Boomer and Carton, Francesa, Joe and Evan, Colin Coward. I've listened to so many people talk about this series. And the one thing that I get from a lot of them, whether they go for Golden State or Cleveland, is that Cleveland is more physical. The refs are not going to want to get in the middle of this series, which favors Cleveland immensely. Because what does that do? That takes the shooters out of it for Golden State. It starts to annoy Draymond Green, who we know has an issue with controlling his temper on the court. That's not a secret either. I'm not saying he's going to do anything stupid, but it could happen. That you also have to look at Steve Kerr might not be there, and I understand Brown's done a very good job in his absence, has not lost a playoff game yet, but still that makes a difference. A lot of people are going to credit that 23-point comeback in the first game of the Western Conference Final against San Antonio to the halftime talk by Steve Kerr. Mike Brown may not have gotten that same reaction out of Golden State, but Kerr got that reaction and they came back and won. For me, all signs point to Cleveland winning. I have them in six. I think they'll win it in Cleveland again. And I honestly think Kevin Durant, who said, "Oh, I'll take less money to keep these guys," yeah, well, of course you're going to. You want to stay on a winner until they prove that they're not a winner anymore. So that series will start in a little under 3 hours from now. Which, by the way, thank you very much to ESPN, who have had a countdown to the NBA Finals timer up for the last countdown up for the last 3 days. So thank you very much to them because I want to know 3 days before the final how much time down to the femtosecond until they tip off. So thank you ESPN for that. Going to baseball, you have the Mets who just completed a four-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers this afternoon. Zach Wheeler takes the loss this afternoon. He's now 3-3. Anderson goes 4-1 after throwing 7 innings on 3 hits, 7 strikeouts. The biggest problem for the Mets in this series has been the walks. They allowed 16 walks in just 2 games. They only allowed 3 today, but they allowed 16 walks between Tuesday and Wednesday. That is really not good, especially with the Milwaukee Brewers, who pounded just 7-1 yesterday, and that one was a gift. If they had not put the overshift on Conforto, that's an out in the ninth inning last night. And you get the controversy from today, which is the ball boy for Milwaukee. I understand what the ball boys are told. And what the ball boys are told is you go in the dugout on a pop up. If I'm a ball boy, I have to use a little bit of judgment. If I have a third baseman bearing down on me looking at a pop up, I'm not going to attempt to run anywhere near him. I am running away from that. But this kid picks up his stool, tries to run back around Flores to try to get into the dugout. I'm sorry, I'm running behind the catcher. Or I'm running to the backstop. I'm running away from that play. I'm not trying to get myself involved in that play. Now, because it was ruled unintentional contact, which it was unintentional contact, it was ruled just a foul ball that was missed instead of an out for interference, which I've never seen that before. I could not have told you that rule. And honestly, you're looking at the fourth inning. That actually does hurt the Mets a little bit. So let's go to the fourth here. Uh, how many outs were there when that play happens? Um, okay, it's already 2-0 when that play happens. So I mean, it has no impact on the game at all. I finally got through. I finally got to the play-by-play. Yeah, that has no effect on the game at all. Nick Franklin's already singled to give the Brewers a 2-0 lead. Chase Anderson singles on a bunt pop to the catcher Darno, which that was I don't even know what that was. And and then during the Sogard at bat, that's when you get the it's that's was it during the Anderson at bat or was it during the Sogard at bat? I'm assuming it's during the Sogard at bat, which Sogard with what 4 walks yesterday. That was nice to see. You walk in their leadoff hitter 4 times. Thank you very much. Great way to lose a game doing that. And then you have the controversy with Mr. Met of all people. I mean, it. I when a mascot gets involved like that, I mean, really, you're walking down the tunnel to get into the underbelly of the stadium. You're gonna flip a fan off, really? Come on. He didn't even say anything to him. Makes some comment, turns around, flips him off. I mean, really? You're kidding me, right? Now the Mets say they fired that guy or girl that was under the suit, but who's to say that that person wasn't under the suit today? You don't know who's in the suit. Now there are like 4 or 5 people that rotate in that costume, but there's no telling that that person was genuinely fired. You don't know who's in there. I mean, they could honestly be sitting there going, "Hey, listen, don't do it again. We're going to put out a press release that you've been fired. Just just go with it. You'll be in the suit tomorrow afternoon." I mean, that could honestly be the case. But it's it's so odd, and these are only things that happen to the Mets. Your mascot gets fired for flipping somebody off, and then you have the ball boy knock Wilmer Flores out of the way of an easy pop up in foul territory. I mean, these are only things that happen to the Mets. Mets starting tomorrow will begin a 3-game series against the Pittsburgh Pirates, a 3-game weekend series against the Pirates, so back-to-back weekends against the Pirates. Then you get into a 2-game series against Texas before going to Atlanta, and then you come home for the Cubs and Nationals are the next couple series. That's a 4-game series against the Nationals, by the way, going from the 15th to the 18th. And then it's a little bit of a West Coast swing. So you got the weekend series against Pittsburgh coming up starting tomorrow. Monday off. Wednesday against Texas. Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Atlanta. Then you come home for the Cubs and the Nationals. Those are the next couple series for the Mets. For the Yankees last night, did not have a good time last night. What was it? A 10-4 loss last night in a series that really won't hurt them as badly as you think. Boston's behind 2 games against the Yankees. So they have a little bit of a cushion. Honestly, if you're a Yankee fan, really you're sitting 10 games over 500 in June. That's far and away better where you would have expected to be at this time this year. Far and away better. They'll start a series against Toronto this evening. CC Sabathia on the mound, 5-2, 4.42 ERA, 46 strikeouts. For the Blue Jays, they send up Marco Estrada, who's 4-2 with a 3.15 and 78 strikeouts. Sabathia has been very, very good lately. Cruised through his last three starts against the Royals, Rays, and Oakland. Uh, First three-game winning streak in 7 years. I'm sorry, not in 7 years. My goodness, 4 years. Toronto coming in about as hot as you can get. They've won 8 of their last 9. Estrada has allowed 2 runs or less in his last 8 of his last 11 starts, and is averaging 10.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. So they're coming in against. So they're playing a hot team on the road against a hot pitcher. Tonight, the lineups for the Yankees will look a little like this: Gardner, Sanchez, Judge moves up to number 3. Holiday, then Castro, Gregorius, Hicks, Headley, Carter will be the lineup ahead of CC Sabathia this evening. For Toronto, it'll be Kevin PR in center, Josh Donaldson at third, Jose Bautista in right, Kendrys Morales the DH, Justin Smoke at first, Troy Tulowitzki at short, Darwin Barney at second, Ezekiel Correa in left, and Luke Malley behind the plate around Marco Estrada. Now, before we get to the NHL final, Stanley Cup Finals, a couple things from this past week. For one thing from this past week in baseball, and then what starts tonight. The brawl between Hunter Strickland and Bryce Harper. Those two have history going back to the playoffs from a couple years ago. Strickland's a fool. Harper is, I don't want to say totally in the right, but he got beamed intentionally. Period. Harper hits 2 home runs, and then late in the game, he gets beamed with a fastball right in the hip. I mean, really? Everyone's saying, "Oh, why didn't Bumgarner go out to go out and break up the brawl? Why did Buster Posey just stand there behind the plate?" Two reasons. One, Bumgarner's on the DL from a broken shoulder. He's not getting out in a brawl. Are you kidding me? And number two, Buster Posey. If I were Buster Posey, I would have been standing there going, "Really? We're down 2-0, and you're going to hit Bryce Harper like a fool? Really?" That would have been my thought. Like, really? You're going to do that? We're down 2 runs. You've just completely screwed the game for us now. Thank you very much for that. I'm not. Get beat up by Bryce Harper. I don't care. That would have been my thought. That and Harper, there's a hole in the ear flap of the helmet for a reason. You stick your finger in it and then you throw. You don't just grab the thing by the side and then launch it. Otherwise, you look like a fool throwing your helmet in the right field. Harper serves game 1 of his now 3-game suspension tonight. So he will miss. He'll be back on Sunday. Hunter Strickland is going to serve game 2 of his 6-game suspension tonight, which for San Francisco means absolutely nothing since they've been god awful this year. That and what starts tonight is the first series between Baltimore and Boston since that riot series that they had in Boston a couple weeks ago. Honestly, it's in Baltimore. It'll be in a tamer atmosphere. I don't expect anything to happen this series. Do not expect anything to happen. Yes, they're fighting for second in the division right now, but don't expect anything to happen. Boston's not going to make a move in hostile territory. That, and I really don't think Baltimore is the kind of team or has the pitching makeup that is the kind of team that would start something on home turf. I think they got everything out of their system. That, and I'm sure Manfred already said, watch these two. Be very, very careful with these two. You sniff that something's off. make a call. Do something. They are going to be heavily scrutinized in this series. Do not expect anything to come out of this Boston Baltimore series. To the Stanley Cup Finals. Now, the question I posed back down in the description is: has Pittsburgh gained a 2-0 lead in this series, or has Nashville given it to them? Nashville last night, that own goal is a killer. 10 seconds into the third period in a 1-1 game. That is a killer. Okay. Pecorine gives up a goal then just 3 minutes later, and then gives up a third the next trip down the ice 15 seconds later after the second one. Pecorine is 0-7-2 against Pittsburgh lifetime. Now the question is, do you sit Pecorine? My thought is no. Could he be tired? Yes. Would I have him on an extremely short leash? Yes. If he gives up 2 goals in the first period in quick succession, guess what? You're done, son. I do not want to put my starting goaltender on the bench for game 3 and then completely bomb game 3 to the point where I have to put him in. And then the questions are, well, why didn't you just put him in to start the game? I do not want to put myself in a 3-0 hole against Pittsburgh in the Stanley Cup Final. I don't want that. Start your best goaltender and then pray he does not give up a couple goals in succession. Because if he does that, then you have a problem. Then you have to pull him. And then you're going to have to end up with this kid whose name I don't remember to back him up. I honestly thought it was still Hutton. It's not Hutton. It is not a good look at all for Nashville in this series. Saros is the backup goaltender for Nashville. Saros. This has not been a good look for Nashville. They are falling back to earth, and they are falling back to earth fast and hard. Nashville has to come out fist flying tonight, not literally. They have to come out scoring. They have to come out physical. Let Rene see some shots. The guy's allowed 8 goals on 38 shots. That's not enough. He saw 12 shots in the first game. That's not enough. That's not enough. He might be tired, sure, but he could also be off because he's not getting work. If you're a goaltender, you need to get work in order to be and stay sharp. You have to have at least 25 to 30 shots on you every single night. I understand that tires you down. I understand it wears you out. But Nashville played the least amount of games to this point. They played nowhere near the amount of games that Pittsburgh has going into this series. Pittsburgh went to a game, I believe, 2 game 7s going into this series. Pittsburgh, as of last night, was at 21 games. Nashville's at 18. So it's a 3-game difference, but those 3 games make a difference. So game 3 of that series will be tomorrow. Tonight, it is all NBA between Cleveland and Golden State, which will begin in 2.5 hours. Once again, just going through the scores. Mets lose this afternoon by a final score of 2-1 against the Milwaukee Brewers. Yankees start a series against the Blue Jays tonight. They lost 10-4 last night against Baltimore. Yesterday, the New York City FC drawing with the New England Revolution 2-2. They will play Saturday against the Philadelphia Union. And on Saturday as well, the New York Red Bulls will play the Montreal Impact in the MLS. So that'll do it for us today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all tomorrow.